A very good morning, students. I welcome you all to today's class. So, in the last classes, we were revising the first and the second chapter, if you all remember. So, in today's class, we will start with the third chapter, which is private, public, and global enterprises. In the last chapter, we discussed different forms of business organizations like sole proprietorship, partnership, joint into family business, cooperative society, and joint stock company. In today's or in this chapter, we will discuss about different other kinds of enterprises, but not the ones which we have discussed. Before I start the class, let us discuss about what is a mixed economy. Why am I going to talk about what is a mixed economy is because our country is a mixed economy. India is a mixed economy. Now, what do I mean by this? In order to explain what is the meaning of mixed economy, I have to explain what is a capitalist economy and what is a socialist economy. Now, there are two different extreme kinds of economies. The first one is a capitalist economy, and the second one is a socialist economy. In a capitalist economy, the business organizations are owned and controlled by business people. But in a socialist economy, business organizations are owned and controlled by the government. So, in a private economy, in a capitalist economy, you will find that business people are running the economy. Whereas you will see that in a socialist economy, it is the government who is influencing, who is owning, who is running, and who is taking or driving the economy. One such example of a capitalist economy is the USA. And example of a socialist economy is a country like China. In China, you must have seen in news and all that the government is very strict about how it runs its business organizations. The people over there, they do not have much control over the business activities. It is the government who decides what kind of products should be produced, where should it be sold, to which all country it should sell its products and all. So it is the government who completely takes control of the economy. It is not the people over there who are running the driving the economy or running the business organizations. It is the government who is taking decisions regarding all different kinds of activities relating to the business and the economy. But whereas you will see that in countries which are of capitalist ideology, in capitalist countries like the USA, there you will find that the owners of the business organizations, they are the ones who are running the or driving the economy. It is the people over there who will decide what should be said, what should be made, what should be sold, where it should be sold. All these different kinds of activities are taken by the business organizations, not by the government. Definitely, government can make changes, but it does not have complete authority over the running of the business. Whereas in countries like China, you will see that government has complete control over the business. Now, our country is a mixed economy. That means it is a mixture of a capitalist as well as a socialist economy. It is not. It does not come in between. I mean, it does not go to the extremes. Rather, it comes in between. It comes in between the capitalist and the socialist extremes. Now, in a mixed economy, you will find that there are business organizations that are privately owned and also owned by the government. So those companies which are privately owned are known as private sectors. So all those different kinds of companies which are owned by different organizations, private organizations, they will come under private sector, and all those different kinds of organizations which are owned and controlled by the government will come under public sectors. Now, in a public sector, the government either has a partial, that means half, or full control. Okay, but government does have some interference there, but in a private company it will be completely controlled by the private people only. In the last chapter we discussed about different forms of business organizations, right? So all those different organizations are actually private owned organizations, so they are private, they all come under private sector. Now, in this chapter, we will be discussing about various things, but the first thing that we'll be discussing about is public sector. So, under public sector, we have three different kinds of enterprises. The first one is departmental undertakings, the second one is statutory corporation, and the third one is government companies. So now let us so as I said, under private sector we had different kinds of subdivisions like sole proprietorship, partnership, joint in the family business, cooperative society, joint stock company. All these were what? All these were private sector companies now, or businesses. But here now what we're going to start is about public organizations or public sector. Public sector has three subdivisions. The first one is departmental undertakings, the second one is statutory corporation, and the third one is government companies. So under departmental undertakings we have the first thing. We have the first we'll first discuss about departmental undertakings, and I'll first explain what it really means, and then we will discuss the features of departmental undertakings in today's class. Departmental undertaking is one of the oldest traditional enterprises that we have in our country. It is one of the oldest enterprises or business organizations that we see in our country. Now, under departmental undertaking, you will see that the organizations that are there, they were formed or established as departments of the ministry. They were formed or established as departments of the ministry. Now, what is the meaning of ministry? Now, in our country, we have a government, right? And under the government there are different ministries. You all must have heard of, for example, I'll give you some examples so that you can understand. You must have heard of Ministry of Home or Home Ministry. You must have heard of this. Or you must have heard of Ministry of Defense or Defense Ministry. You must have heard of Ministry of Finance or Finance Ministry. You must have heard of Ministry of Human Resource Management or HRD Ministry. There are different kinds of ministry like the ones which I mentioned right now in our country. There are different ministries. Now, departmental undertakings has some organizations which were formed under this or as a part of this ministry. I'll give you an example of departmental undertaking. You must have heard of railways, right? Or you must have heard of Post and Telegraph Department. Postal and Telegraph Department, like the postal services that we have, where we send our letters and all. So those are Postal and Telegraph Department. And we also have Railway Department. So Railway Department, Postal and Telegraph departments, these departments were formed as departments of the ministry by the government. These were formed by the government and they were formed as department of the ministry. Okay, so that is why they are known as departmental undertaking. Undertaking means organizations which are undertaken or controlled, owned by the department. Now that's why they were formed. Now you must have never heard of private owned railways. None of you must have heard of private owned railways. Railway is owned by the government. It is run by the government. And how does the government run it? It uses the treasury, the government treasury, to run it. It uses the money, which is the fund which is found in the government's treasury, in order to run this organization or this department. So then, apart from this, what do we see Apart from this, we see that, um, as I said, it uses the money which is found in the government treasury. After using the money, all the revenues that come in, where does that money go? It goes back to the treasury itself. The money comes from the treasury in order to run these departments, and whatever money the government gets out of it goes back to the treasury so that it can run its work well, so that it can run the organization well. Then, apart from this, we have that uh, these departmental undertakings, they are subject to, or they are under the accounting and audit controls. Now, the government has to, from time to time, do the accounting work, do the auditing work in order to control its function. Then, all the employees who are working here in this departmental undertaking, they are known as government servants, and their recruitment and their conditions of the service are similar to all those which are applicable to any employee who is working under the government. So the people who are working here, they are known as government servants, and the terms of conditions that are applicable for their employment are similar to any of the terms and conditions which are applicable or given to any other people who are working under any of the organizations under the government. And all these different kinds of departmental undertakings, they are headed by IAS officers and civil servants who are transferable from one ministry to another. So these undertakings will be the head of these undertakings will be Indian Administrative Service Officers, that means IAS officers, or any other civil servants who can be transferred from one ministry to another. They can be transferred. Suppose you are a IAS officer and you are working in the Department of Finance right now, you can be transferred to any other department later on. You can be transferred to Ministry of Railways in the future. You can be transferred to Ministry of Postal and Telegraph Services in the future. So that is up to the government how they can transfer you. And it is generally considered to have a major subdivision of the government department and is subject to direct control of the ministry. So this ministry, since it has been started by the government, is run and owned and controlled, and all the functions of this organizations will be controlled by the government itself. They are accountable to the ministry since their management is directly under the concerned ministry. So this ministry or this departmental undertaking, it is controlled it is owned by the government, and so it is accountable to the ministry itself. Whatever happens, it is accountable to the ministry, since it is under the control, under the running, under the management of the ministry. So it is accountable also to the ministry. What do we mean by accountable? That means what? The ministry can question them. The ministry can ask, why have you done this? Where did the money go? You took so much of money. Where did you spend so much of money? So the ministry can question these departments, okay, because these departments were formed under the ministry. That's why these departments are accountable to the ministry. They are answerable to the ministry. Okay, so these are the different kinds of features that we study under departmental undertakings. First is that where does the funding come from? It comes from the government's treasury, and all the revenues that are collected through these departments goes back to the treasury. And these organizations or these enterprises are subject to the accounting and audit controls of the government, and the people who work here are known as government servants, and the head of the departments are IAS officers and or other civil servants who can be transferred from one ministry to another over time. And they also have different subdivisions under it. They do not have just one thing. Under railways also there are lots of subdivisions, and which are again controlled by the government. And the final thing is this, that their function, their working is questionable. They are answerable for their working to the ministry. So the ministry can ask them, why have you done this? When did you do it? Where did you do it? Where did so much of money go? And different kinds of questions the ministry can ask from the department, and the department is answerable to all these different kinds of questions which are made by the government or the ministry. Okay, so this is what is there under departmental undertaking. So this is the features that we discussed right now. In tomorrow's class, we will discuss about the merits and limitations of departmental undertaking. So I hope this is clear to you. What is departmental undertaking? It is one of the oldest and the traditional enterprises that we have in our country, and the most important thing is that it was formed as one of the departments under the ministry. Just like we have any other ministry, like defense ministry, finance ministry, HRD ministry, just like that, even ministries like railways, postal services, these were also brought into existence. And then we discussed about the different kinds of features. So with this, I will like to end today's class. In tomorrow's class, we will meet again and we'll be discussing about the merits and limitations of departmental undertaking. Thank you.